Hey everybody, it's C.W. Harper. I am going to be reading to you today from a book by Caroline Giammanco. This is the book I'm going to read from, Banknotes Revisited. She wrote Banknotes originally and then she has added to it. It is her debut novel. I'm going to read a little bit about Caroline. Caroline Giammanco is an author, educator, and criminal justice reform advocate. Born and raised in the Ozarks of southwest Missouri, she attended the University of Arizona, where she earned a BA in political science and a post-baccalaureate certification in secondary education. She is invited to speaking engagements and book signings around the country, spreading the word about the need for criminal justice reform. She teaches high school English in southern Missouri and lives on her favorite place on earth, her farm. She has two sons, Rick and Kevin, and two stepdaughters, Elise and Marissa, and she is married to the love of her life, Keith Giammanco. It also, in this about the author, goes on to say that she and Keith will live on her farm together once he is released from prison. And I am happy to say that as of maybe 2 months ago, could be three, I'm not sure, Keith has been released. So I'm going to read you chapter 1 of Banknotes Revisited, and it's from the viewpoint of Keith. No one wakes up in the morning intending to ruin his life. Most of the time, we make good, productive decisions, the kinds of decisions we can be proud of, or at least we try to. Usually, we don't give it a second thought. However, there are times when a crisis hits, when our backs are pressed against a wall and we don't make good decisions. Out of fear, panic, and desperation, we start down paths leading to dark places. I know. I went down one of those paths. People make decisions based on the information they have available at that given moment. The catch is that we sometimes only have partial or even faulty information on which to base our decisions. Pride clouds judgment as well. Life, unfortunately, doesn't give us crystal balls to see into the future, nor does it give us rewind buttons to change past mistakes. Looking back, we all have decisions we would change if we could. Hindsight, however, does us no good in the immediate. The here and now is where life tends to become messy. First of all, I'm not telling my story to garner sympathy. My case was well publicized, and most people who heard about it already made up their minds one way or another about me. Was I a villain or a desperate Robin Hood? That's for others to decide for themselves. Instead, this is my opportunity to tell what happened, which before now I haven't shared. My motivations, my punishment, and the lessons I learned are my story. The Boonie Hat Bandit is one part of my story, and it's only a small part of the man I am. Banknotes is not solely an attempt to explain how I, a middle class, loving father, entered into an infamous life of crime. It's intended to provide a broader picture of the real me. No one should be defined by any one event or period in his life or her life. That being said, it would be wrong to suggest that we are not shaped by events. Some, such as a divorce, a death, or the loss of employment, carry immediate and visible wounds. Others we carry deep within ourselves. Sometimes those wounds are so deep that we don't recognize the profound effect they have on our outlooks and future decisions. A crisis, followed by reflection, can allow us to adjust and learn to live life more fully as we move beyond our mistakes. Nothing can change the past, but the future is always a work in progress. Isn't that the truth? Our experiences and the effects they have on us as individuals are not all negative. Events happen and people enter our lives with positive influences. Good experiences can be as transformational as painful ones. Having people love and understand us for all our strengths and weaknesses creates hope and a new life for each of us. Blessings are everywhere, and sometimes we find them at the most unlikely times and in the most unusual places. Each experience, good and bad, shapes what we are. I thank God that healing and regrowth are possible. Faith is valuable. I learned the hard way the pitfalls of losing faith. The dark path seems like the only way when faith is gone. I always loved and believed in God, before a time I forgot to have faith. I stopped trusting in Him and thought I could solve all my problems by myself. It took a serious jolt to bring me back to my faith, but I now have it. Throughout my story, I hope the joy I feel is evident. I take full responsibility for my crimes. Banknotes is not an attempt to blame anyone else for my actions. My fears and motivations I derive from experiences involving others, but my decisions were my own. I'm telling my story to explain what led this devoted father to risk it all, to lead a double life of crime. I will tell readers about the people and situations that influenced me, but in the end, everyone is responsible for his or her actions, and my guilt falls solely on my shoulders. I'm going to take a drink of coffee. I will not glorify crime, nor do I intend to provide a how-to book on bank robbery. I discuss the planning and details of my crimes, but at no time do I encourage anyone to make the same bad decisions I did. Prison is not a place anyone wants to go. The price paid by families is too high to regard prison casually. I recognize the pain I have caused. For that reason, I will not go into any great detail about each one of the crimes. I don't want anyone to think I am proud of what I did. I have remorse for the mistakes I made, and I don't believe it does anyone, including the tellers or other victims, any good for me to repeat those 12 moments in my life. I am not cavalier about the robberies. Many nights I have beaten myself up for what I've done and for the pain I've inflicted. The 2 years I spent in the county jail were filled with those nights of self-loathing. Since I've been in prison, I've had many more sleepless nights thinking about the effects of my crime spree. Every time Caroline and my daughter struggle, those angry jabs I take at myself resurface. I am not proud of what I did, and I can't apologize enough to the people whose lives I hurt. My daughters have suffered. I caused grief and stress to the bank employees, and I derailed my own life, including the one I have with Caroline. In no way do I underestimate or minimize the devastating effects of my actions. I've reached the realization, however, that beating myself up will do no good. If I am to have a life at all, it's time to focus on being a better person today so that I have a brighter future ahead. I take responsibility for my actions, but it is time to let go of self-loathing. God forgives me, and nothing good comes from holding on to cobwebs of the past. Here is my story. Let it be a cautionary tale of how taking matters into your own hands and being blinded by desperation can bring anyone to his or her knees. I hope by the end of this book, everyone can appreciate why my first chapter is called Count All Things Joy. The concept is a constant thread that now runs through my life. I hope it will be in everyone else's as well. So that gives you a good introduction of what to expect in this book. Now, I will say there are some very dark moments in this book that occur in prison. And that's all I'm going to say on that. This is available, I know, on Amazon. It may be, I don't think it's released on Ingram Spark yet, but I believe it will be. And it's a really good read, especially if you like true crime. There's no gore. There's no spice at all. It is just a good story, and for me, it was an eye-opener. I'm sorry, the wolf howling is my text tone, and I forgot to silence my phone. So, give Caroline a read. Check her out. She has other books. She also writes science fiction and paranormal. She is just an awesome author, but this is her debut novel and one of her very best. All right, until next month, this is C.W. Harper saying, have a good day.